Well, good morning and afternoon, 10th grade Latin, as I'm here recording this last thing in the morning, but you will be observing it first thing in the afternoon. There'll be several things you're able to do today. Of course, Mr. Phillips will have passed out your homework sheet, as well as this sheet, which I've already filled in and then photocopied for you along the left-hand column. So you want to be at the ready with a pencil ready to go and everything as we get ready to go through Passio Perpetuae, Book 1, Chapter 5 and verse 1. So sorry that my copy here, the black is not as rich as it ought to be due to my toner, but we're on page 10, and we've just finished this whole section here at the bottom of chapter 4. You remember, like, et levavit caput, et aspexit me, et dixit mihi, this man, like the shepherd with all those around him, has lifted up his head and caught sight of her and then said, Bene venisti technon, et clamavit me, et de casio, quod molgebat derit mihi quasi bucelam. It's well that you have come, child. And then also here, the quod molgebat, which he was milking, he's given to me just as a sort of a cake or a morsel. And then she accepts it with iunctis manibus, with having been joined hands, right? Her hands having been joined, et manducavi, and I have eaten. And then all around, the universi circumstantes, all those standing around, dixerant, they have said, Amen. And then last night, you translated, et ad sanum vocis experecta sum, con manducans ad huc dulce nescio quid, et retuli statum fratri meo, et intelleximus passionem esse futuram, et coepimus nullam iam spem in saeculo habere. So we won't go through every little detail of this. It was your homework last night. If you have additional questions, we will look at that tomorrow. We will notice here, though, just quickly, some of the last bits to get us ready here for verse 1, of course. She said that immediately, fratri tu meo, to my brother, retuli, she has returned it, she has reported it. Et intelleximus, and from this, right, you'll see that's related to intellectual or intellect. They have come to understand passionem esse futuram. And you'll remember, this is how Latin will make this kind of roundabout way, esse futuram, as a kind of future infinitive here. It is going to be. So a passion it's going to be. Et coepimus nullam iam spem in saeculo habere. Right, they are no longer having any hope in saeculo. They are no longer going to hold, you could even say, habere, to have hope now in saeculo, in this realm or in this age. So now she starts up this new chapter, and we begin with post paucos dies, and I'll move on over to the sheet now. Post, of course, comes from post. That's its lexical entry because it is simply a preposition, and it governs the accusative. And then you'll notice paucos here comes from paucus, pauca, paucum, a 2-1-2 adjective. Here it is accusative, and it is feminine, singular, because we have dies, which is a fifth declension feminine right here. So we notice that comes from dies, a fifth declension feminine. Notice we have all accusative, accusative feminine, singular, all these matching. We don't always do the classification, yet this is one that we've talked about and it's worthy to show here. Accusative of, and then dt can stand for duration of time for us. The accusative duration of time after a few days right here. So, and that's what we have here for our gloss or our rough translation, after a few days. And then it brings us to rumor. Rumor. Now, you have seen this word. It's actually also an easy word to understand. It's not been as common, so they do have it here in your running vocabulary in the readers section. But rumor simply means a report or reputation. It is obviously in this way related to rumor. It can be translated as rumor, though it won't commonly or always be translated as rumor. And so here we have in Perpetua this nominative masculine singular noun rumor, and then cucurit coming from curo. You've had curus. In fact, I think you've also had curo earlier there in Latin Alive Book 2. It's also found here near the bottom. You'll remember curus was a chariot, and so here actually you'll see the idea of running or rushing or flying very much related to the noun curus for chariot. So this is coming off the third principal part. It is the perfect active indicative. Third singular verb. And so it would mean he, she, or it has run or flown. A classic sort of rendering right there. It is possible, perhaps, that she even knows and has in mind, due to her own dates in the 2nd century, the words of Virgil here. Virgil, in Book 4 of the Aeneid, has a famous description of rumor, though in Virgil, rumor is personified, so we could say it has a capital R, personified as a deity, and it is running all about carrying this report. He even describes almost this terrifying look to rumor in that place. Now, ut, you will recall, is a conjunction. It is a subordinating conjunction, meaning something like that, and it will normally introduce a subjunctive. And notice here, that's exactly what we get, audiremur. Let me pause and slow down for a minute and see if you can come up with that form. Audiremur. What word does this come from? And where does it break? Where is the ending? And then where is the basic part here, the stem for this particular tense? If you're seeing it right here, you are correct. Mur. Now that's not o istus mustus unt. Those are not our active endings. It's o restur mormini untur. That is the first plural of the passive. And then we've got audire as the kind of stem to make this tense. But audire itself is the present active infinitive. So think to yourself, even from that master verb formulae sheet that I gave you, what has the formula present active infinitive plus the endings? And it is the imperfect active subjunctive, a first plural in this case, a verb from audio, and that makes perfect sense at this point. In fact, we just received our conjunction ut, and there is, in fact, the verb of that clause. So that we would be heard. You'll recall that very commonly would is a key word for translating the imperfect subjunctive. Especially here in this case, it turns out to be an ut result clause, as it's known. The result, the ut clause, is showing the result of the situation here, that they would be heard. And then you'll see this very next section, supervenit autem. So supervenit comes from super and venio. You'll notice it's just a compound off of venio, which you know well. And so supervenio here is still coming off of the third principal part. You'll see it's even provided for you in the reader's edition that you're working with on page 11. A perfect active indicative, third singular. He, she, it has come upon, arrived, you could even say, that kind of thing. He, she, it has come upon. Autem, of course, remember that means also, moreover, sometimes even with a sharper contrast as however. It comes from autem and is an adverbial conjunction. And then et is a conjunction, as we know very well. Here, of course, we know it means and, but it likely would mean also in this particular place, perhaps, since it's right next to autem. It's working in this way with autem. Now next we get de civitate. De comes from de. It's a preposition, functions with the ablative. We confirm that. That's definitely the case here as we get civitas, civitatis, an ablative, feminine, singular noun right here. So it would be down from the city. And we'll notice in particular here, it is actually governing, de, is governing a noun that has to do with an actual space or location. So it's down from, it's showing a relationship in space in this case. It's not so much, say, related to a concept or an idea, like de amore, concerning love or about love. It is down from the city. Now, notice how she has delayed revealing to us, and then bam, she hits us with this noun, pater, and the adjective meus. Meus here is the adjective or the pronominal adjective, we could say. The nominative, masculine form here, singular, same thing, nominative, masculine, singular, pater, so father, my father. Excuse me, this is not the pronoun itself, it's the pronominal adjective. So meus is the lexical form of meus. So pater meus, my father, and then consumptus tideo, consumptus tideo. Now here, you have actually learned sumo, sumere, sumpsi, sumptum, and it's consumo, consumere, consumpsi, consumptum. So consumo is actually the lexical entry here. You'll notice that this is a verbal adjective. Consumptus, that is coming off of the fourth principal part. Therefore, this is the perfect passive participle, and it has the nominative masculine singular ending on it, and so it's working just like meus. It's working as an adjective for pater. So he is, we could say, used up. He is taken up by something. In fact, we can even say consumed in this particular case. Consumo would not always be translated this way, but it fits the context, and it's kind of nice that it does, because that is a perfect English cognate word. The English word consumed. We often say, oh, he is consumed with this. She is consumed with that. And so you'll notice here that you have this word also, tidium. You want to get used to more and more interacting with words like tideo and asking yourself, where might it be breaking? Okay, based on the flow of the context here, it would seem that it is a noun or adjective base with an O ending, and sure enough, that is what you find, right? We do get our word tedium or tedious here. Maybe you've had various tedious tasks, and it might be that you find it to be disgusting or loathsome or something like that. So there is tidium, tidii, and so it is a noun. This one is the ablative, neuter, singular. So this would be by or with disgust. So your disgust, loathing, even weariness. Weariness actually may be a useful translation here to include in our gloss as well. And so then we have et, the conjunction, and or also. Ascendit, a word we've seen plenty now. Ascendo, a verb. This is coming off of the fourth principal part. Most likely here we've got the perfect active indicative, third singular. We've talked about how technically that form could be present or perfect because it's ascendo, ascendere. It's a third conjugation. So it would have the o, I, vowel pattern there as the connecting vowel if it were present. And so it would be ascend I, and then it would have the t ending. Now, on the other hand, it would be ascend, ascendi, ascensum. It would be ascend coming off the third principal part. And then the it is actually the special perfect ending. I isti it, imis istis erunt. Now, due to the way that she is speaking at this point, notice, ladies, I'm making my decision on the basis of the fact that she is using perfect verbs at this point in her narration. Many perfect verbs. So I'm going to take this one as a perfect based on the context. He, she, or it has come up or ascended. Okay. Now it's ad me. Ad me. So ad is a preposition plus the accusative. Me is the pronoun from ego. It's the accusative singular. So it's going to be unto or to me. So this actually helps to govern the meaning of ascendo. Remember a moment ago, what was this, 2 days ago, I guess it was, we saw Satyrus finding the scala, the ladder or stair, and he was ascending the stair. He was going up the stair. And so we often use ascended that way. But if it terminates on, if it has as its direct object a person like this, well, then it has to do with coming up. We would say you go up a ladder, but you come up to your friend in order to speak with her. And so we now have another ut clause opening this conjunction, that, a subordinating conjunction. Again, most likely we will get it terminating on a subjunctive, most likely for purpose or result. We have another may. So, whoops, I put may as my lexical entry. May's lexical entry is ego in its nominative form. So we have our pronoun here, the accusative singular, me, and then deiceret, deacons, deiceret. You may remember deikio from before, deikio, ikkio. This even has to do with the idea of being dejected. If you're dejected, you are thrown off of your previous purpose. You're dissuaded from continuing in that purpose. It's even related to an important word, iakio, which means to throw. So here is de plus iakio, essentially. This here is a verb. Notice its form. And actually notice how consistent she's been. She's using perfect indicatives and then ut clauses with imperfect subjunctives, and she's done it again. See, your ending is the T. We cover that up, and you've got deacere. Deacere is the second principal part. Deacere is the present active infinitive, and now we have an infinitive plus the ending, which is the formula for an imperfect active subjunctive, third singular. So, he, she, or it would throw off or dissuade. And then deacons. Now, you'll see this section. This has been classic for her. She's done this over and over again, hasn't she? Where she's introduced someone and then used a participle as her formula for beginning their own direct quotation. She did this with herself, with her brother, with the crowd and folks even up here earlier in chapter 4, which we saw previously. So here she's doing it once more. Coming off of deco, she's using the verbal adjective, the present active participle, nominative masculine singular. Now it's masculine or feminine in form, but we can tell she's referring to the pater meus who's come up in deacons. He is now speaking or saying. Speaking or saying. So we now need to move from the analysis that we have here on the sheet, from the rough translation into the smooth translation. I'll actually pause it right about in this position so that if you do need to stop at any point, whether it's here in class or after class, when this is permanently on our Google Classroom page, you'll be able to see these various parsings. So this is what we have all the way down now. And we need to move now from these parsings, the analysis, and the wooden translation into more of a smooth translation. You'll notice what we have says, after a few days, rumor or report had flown that we would be heard. And then he, she, or it has entered or come upon, also in fact, down from the city, my father. And then consumptus, consumed with disgust or weariness, and he came up unto me that he would throw me off, speaking or saying. So now we can sort of smooth this out and put it together. After a few days, a rumor that we would be heard flew around. Supervenit, he came up or arrived, my father, from the city. Or maybe here to do better justice to autem et, we could say, moreover, and moreover, my father came up from the city, consumed with weariness, tideo. And he came up to me that he might throw me off, saying. So that's a nice smooth translation here. And we remember before, the first time that he came up to her, she actually included the idea that he would throw her off from the faith, that he would dissuade her from the faith. And she does not include it here, but it's clear that in her concept or the repeated idea of what he's doing, that would be his purpose. So there is a video. I know we got almost to about 20 minutes, but that will leave you with a decent time in class to be able to review some things for yourself, whether it's this, maybe you even want to write that out. I won't take the tedium, right, the wearisome time to write out right here the full smooth translation, but you should do so. And then also you'll be able to study the recent chapters of Latin Alive Book 2's vocabulary. You'll recall that we have more of a worksheet style, a homework grade quiz on those matters tomorrow, but then an actual quiz on those next week, a cumulative quiz on that vocabulary. So keep up the good work. I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.